This is the sad story of the short life of 27-year-old Ennis Cosby, Bill Cosby's only son. First, we will detail his life and how his life was taken, and then we will look at some of the things within the story that just do not seem to add up. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Ennis Cosby was born on April 15, 1969. Ennis Cosby was the apple of his father's eye. Bill Cosby at the time was an established comedian, and him and his wife Camille had already had 2 daughters. Bill really hoped that this third child would be a boy. And after his son was born, they ended up having 2 more girls, totaling 5 children. Bill was delighted to have a son. Bill frequently used his experiences with Ennis in his comedy routines. And when he co-created The Cosby Show, which ran from 1984 to 1992, Bill even based the character of Theo Huxtable on his own son, Ennis Cosby. Now, let's get to the day in question. January 16th, 1997. Ennis was nearing the end of a 2-week vacation in LA. He was going to meet up with a woman by the name of Stephanie Crane, in which he had met a week prior at a party in LA. On the way to meet her, he got a flat tire. Stephanie states that Ennis called her with his cellular phone to let her know that he had a flat tire, and Stephanie states that he called for help. She pulled up in her Jaguar behind Cosby and tried to convince him to call a tow truck, but Ennis was adamant that he could change the tire himself, so she sat behind him and shined her lights so that he would have light to see. As Stephanie sat and waited on Ennis to replace the tire, he had apparently removed the flat tire and put on the spare. He was in the process of putting on the lug nuts when it all went down, and this is verified by the crime scene. The rest of the story is by Stephanie's account. Stephanie states that as she sat in her car, a man by the name of Mikhail Markasev came up to her side. He was an 18-year-old immigrant from Ukraine, and apparently him and his friends had been hanging out at a nearby parking lot when they saw Ennis and Crane's cars, both luxury cars. Stephanie states that Markasev was high when he came up to her car, and he was hoping to rob them both. Stephanie was so alarmed that she drove away, but afterwards she soon got her composure and turned around. She states that when Markasev went to go confront Ennis, he was too slow to hand over his money, so Markasev shot him in the head. Stephanie states that Markasev ran off and that she called the police. When the police got there, this is what they found: a Mercedes convertible off to the side, the tire replaced, the lug nuts had started to be replaced, a cell phone in the car. Ennis was sprawled on the driver's side of the car. The passenger door was open. The trunk was open. Also, Ennis had on a Rolex and $60 in his pocket. The news struck the Cosby family and the world hard. Bill Cosby went on national television to state, "He was my hero." Meanwhile, CNN received significant criticism for airing footage of Ennis Cosby's body lying on the side of the road. But it took time and a crucial tip for the police to track down Markasev. After National Enquirer offered $100,000 for any information on Ennis Cosby's death, a former friend of Markasev named Christopher So reached out to the police. According to the Associated Press, he accompanied Markasev and another man as they looked for the weapon that they had used and discarded in Ennis's death. So the police told Markasev that he had bragged that he had shot him, and it was all over the news. Now let's take a look at Markasev in court as the verdict is being read to him. Look at the look on his face.
Present, represented by Deputy District Attorney Ken Ingalls, and that the jury is also present at this time. May I see the hand of the fourth? Call the matter of the people of the state of California versus Michael Marcus, case number BA 109470. Let the record show.
Count one. We, the jury in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Michael Marcusov, guilty of the crime of murder of a human being, Ennis Cosby.
Smart citizen in your seat. Mr. Hall, does the defendant wish the individual members of the jury poll?
Yes, Your Honor.
Clerk will then poll the individual members of the jury.
Jury number one, are these your verdicts?
Yes.
Jury number two, are these your verdicts?
Yes.
Jury number three, are these your verdicts?
Yes.
Jury number
Equal the jury vote.
Need everybody to please exit at this time.
This is Marcosov's family leaving the courthouse.
I felt very good about our evidence, so it did not surprise me that the jurors came back today. I think they spent the right amount of time going over the evidence and going through the jury instructions and came back with the right verdict.
What are your
So now let's get into some of the more questionable aspects of this story. In 1997, when the incident occurred, Stephanie Crane was a 47-year-old woman. Ennis Cosby was 27 years old. And they had only known each other for 1 week prior to the incident. Ennis had just graduated and was going back to get his doctorate in children with special needs. So it just is curious as to what these two had in common at her being almost 50 years old at the time. But be that as it may, the next question I have is that when he called Stephanie, was she that close by to get there before he even started changing the tire? Or did he call her and then wait on her to get there? And if so, why would he do that? Because as Stephanie states in her testimony, Ennis was adamant that he could change the tire himself, even though she wanted him to get help and call for help for someone else to do it. So why would he wait on her to get there before getting started? It seemed like he would already have been started on it. But she watched the whole thing play out. And she didn't bring him any required tools that he needed to change the tire, so there was no really need to wait on her. Also, she was right behind him when Marcosov came up to her side. So she states that she just pulled off. And it's interesting that she would just pull off without any kind of alert or honking her horn or yelling, any kind of warning sign for Ennis to maybe try to get away and get in his car or to get in her car. Nothing of the sort happened. So that just seems strange to me. And also, where were the other two friends that Marcosov said he was with at the park before the incident, and then they were back together after the incident when they were looking for the weapon, as Christopher So states? So they were together before and after the incident, but the two gentlemen seemed to, not have a story or not be involved during the actual incident, and no one seems to know where they were. So I also find that interesting that they were not a part of this or not stated that they were a part of this. And of course, the biggest question of all is, where was the robbery? He had on a Rolex, he had money in his pocket, but nothing was taken. They didn't grab the money, they didn't grab the watch, they didn't search the car, they didn't take anything. And I find that very strange for this to be a robbery, and the extreme measures that they took to end his life, but then didn't take anything. So this to me doesn't add up. What do you guys think about this situation?
Not my cup of tea.